Hey guys, hope everybody is having a wonderful day. I wanted to talk about body positivity and how just the whole change of body standards have affected me personally. So, for me, I've always been a small petite girl. And of course, you have those moments where kids say mean things or whatever, but I never actually felt any pressure as it pertained to my body until I was about like 22, 23 years old. I remember being in a mall and I took a picture with somebody. And so I saw the photo later and I looked crazy in that photo. I looked super tiny. And I know that, a few years leading up to that moment, I was going through some things. I've dealt with some loss, stress, whatever. But I was actually so shocked at how crazy I looked. So I remember going to the doctor and getting weighed, and I was like well below the BMI for my height. So I remember I went into this huge hole, like mentally. And I just became so obsessive with trying to gain weight and how can I do it, as fast as possible and having an ideal weight and all of these things. And it got to a point where, like, I remember, I think I was eating like almost 400, sorry, not 400, 4,000 calories a day, even sometimes five. And I was just eating whatever cakes. I was buying, you know, chips, cookies, junk food, burgers, all these things, pastas. And then it got to a point where I was gaining the weight that I wanted, but my body was suffering. And one time I finally got extremely sick and I didn't lose all the weight that I gained, but I lost some of the weight that I gained. So clearly that wasn't working for me in the way that I needed it to. So then, I just kind of started taking little things, supplements, meal replacement drinks, things of that sort. And then I kind of chilled out for a couple years. And so I just kind of let nature take its course. When I turned 27, 28, I still kind of started to see that things weren't happening, but it was kind of getting to a point where I was like, okay, yay. And so I started to take little 1-2 photos to kind of help myself be like, listen, like, be who you are. It's going to be fine. And I would post it and people would be like, yay, yeah, good on you. You look great. But what I never told anybody, and this is some exclusive tea right here, I actually considered getting a boob job and getting a BBL. When I turned like that 27, 28 range, typically I hear that's usually when you start to grow into your body, you get more, grown weight, whatever. When I started to see that it wasn't happening the way I wanted to happen, I was strongly considering getting a whole makeover done. Like I was going to do the breast, but I wasn't going to go crazy. I was probably going to just do like a full C. And then I was going to do like a skinny BBL so that it didn't look like ant legs. And I considered that for a very long time. The only thing that really kept me from pursuing it was how expensive it was, because I would want to go the safe route. Like I wouldn't want to travel out of the continent to get it done. I would want to do it the safe way, like as safe as humanly possible. And that's expensive as hell. And for me to do both. And then the other thing was BBLs being one of the leading causes of death in surgery wise. And then the third thing was my fear of how much pain I would be in. So those were kind of the few things that kind of kept me from it. And then I got to a point where I was just like, other things were happening that required my money. So I just never put a makeover fund aside, and I was just kind of saving up for other things. And then eventually the thought kind of evaporated from my mind. Now I feel, now then I got older, and now I'm happy I didn't do any of those things. I'm happy I didn't get the surgeries. I'm happy that, life was a life in at the time and my money had to go elsewhere, because I feel like I'm slowly coming into the physical form that I'm meant to be in, if that makes sense. So, I'm still growing into myself. I don't have any children yet, so like that's also something to consider. And then I'm more comfortable with my body. So I really wanted to drop this episode because I did see a post about somebody being in a position right now where they're not happy with themselves, how they look physically. And it just kind of brought me back to how I felt when I was like 27, turning 28. And I was like, I really feel like I want to get a BBL. I used to make like little jokes with my friends, but they never really thought, like they would just laugh like, okay girl, yeah, but like really like in the back of my mind, like, no, like seriously, like I'm gonna be getting this. But I'm glad that I didn't, because now my body is forming into the way that I like it. I'm comfortable, and I feel like, I say that to say, if you decide that you want to do a surgery to your body, you are more than welcome, and you have every right to do so. But I think that we have to make sure that if we're going to go through any form of modifications, we are doing it for ourselves, as opposed to the pressure of what beauty standards look like in society. And I think that part of me got sucked into the whole idea of what beauty standards were. And I felt a little down. I found myself comparing sometimes. And I know that comparison is the thief of joy. We just have to know what works for us. If at the end of the day you say, listen, this is what I want to do because I feel like, do your thing. But if you don't feel within yourself that you need to change anything, do not let anybody tell you that the way you look isn't good enough, because we were all made to look different for a reason. If there was a reason where we're all supposed to look the same, we would look the same. So just embrace your individuality, your physical individuality. It's you. This is how God made you, and this is how you are intended to be. Don't let anybody make you feel like you're not. However, if you're not completely satisfied with that, there is nothing wrong with getting a modification. We just have to ensure that we're doing it for ourselves and only ourselves, because you do surgery, they're going to talk shit about you. You don't do the surgery, they're going to talk shit about you. So either way, they're talking shit about you. So make sure if you are going to do a surgery that you're doing it for yourself, because when they talk shit and you go inside or you log out or whatever, you need to be happy with the person that you're standing and looking at in the mirror at the end of the day. Period.